We swing our way into the mid part of the Racecraft off-road powered by Next Level Racing season, and to the bull rings the drivers focus their championship attention. Welcome to Dirt Night on RaceSpotTV. Arjuna Kankipati joined alongside by Joshua Lee, ready to walk you through all of the action. And Josh, well, we had some fun in the opening 2 rounds, but some wild and wide open tracks are now replaced by these bull rings, and you look from up above at the tight, the twisty nature of what lies ahead. Oh, we're in for a barn burner of a night.
It might not even seem like a bull ring track here at Wild West, but it is the exact same length as Firebird, and take a look at those corners. They are tight. These straightaways are fast. These Pro 2s make headway on these straightaways incredibly quickly. This is going to be an exciting night, especially with these Spec class drivers who, by the way, Arjuna, we've only had 3 drivers repeat on podium so far in this calendar, and we take a look at that now. The newly renamed Firebird coming up next week, Bark River and Crandon, of course, to round out this 6-round calendar. But Arjuna, as we enter into round 3, the halfway point of the series, these Spec class points get even more interesting, especially with the disappointing, to say the least, finishes from points leader Crystal King last week.
Absolutely, and I guess as well, right, the important thing to note is we have 4 straight weeks to open up the season before a week off, and then back-to-back to close off at Bark River and Crandon, where we open up the season, of course, and interesting places. But I think especially with the Pro 2 truck that we wheel out for action today, at these shorter tracks where we have the heavier hairpins, Josh, very important to make sure you try and stay out of trouble, because I think clean air, being able to control your line, your momentum through the corners, 700 horsepower all going through the rear wheels, whether you have a fixed setup in the Spec class or the unrestricted open setups in the Open Championship, it doesn't really matter. Across of qualifying and the 10-lap feature races, you're in for a really hard ride.
Remember the crowded land rush start we had last week? Well, luckily for these drivers, we're not going to have that same thing. It's 2 wide double file rolling start heading up the hill to turn number 1 here at Wild West, but that also has its fair share of crowding in turn number 1, Arjuna. So these drivers still have to be careful, and the admin's giving a little bit of reminders to expect some checkups and some harsh braking on that opening lap. But here is a look at the Wild West Motorsports Park in Sparta, Nevada. Unfortunately, no longer around in the real world, but the great thing about the iRacing.com simulation is we get to take these old racetracks, and at the time when it was scanned, it was still around. Now we get to keep playing with it in the sim, but just under 1 mile in length, only 4 corners. But I mentioned how tough those corners are, Arjuna. I don't think a single one of them are flat on the ground. They are all off camber, either uphill or downhill.
It's a track as well that, you look at the vertical track map, which doesn't really show elevation. It's hard to really talk about everything that we'll go through, right? The rise up to turn 1, the plunge down in towards turn 2, and then, of course, the bit of a roller coaster kick that you have coming out of turn 4 off camber in its very nature, like we're going to talk about plenty, I'm sure. How important, though, do you think qualifying is going to be as they roll out on track right now? We'll talk championship in just a moment, but I just wanted another visual look at this track from up above.
You really get to see all that elevation change now. Highest point on the racetrack being that dive into turn number 4. Turn number 1 shades the Circuit of the Americas, but I think I prefer mine covered in dirt rather than covered in asphalt, and these drivers beating and banging each other instead of trying to run each other off a road at the exit of turn 1. But it's down the hill off of 1 into a small little jump section. Then you turn harshly over to the right in turn 2. It's uphill again through 3, and then over a whoop section before you dive downhill into turn number 4 with a wall that creeps up on you, just like turn number 2 at the Darlington Raceway or the Wall of Champions at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal. But this track's so unique in virtual short course racing. Now the only place we get to race for this track, and still has a special place in all these drivers' hearts, I'm sure, as well as everybody watching at home.
It's a track that, because there are only 4 on iRacing, much as Christopher Plumley would love to have Wheatland, it means that you very much are familiar with them all. Fixed setups for these drivers, they're going to make it relatively easy for them to get to grips with the challenge at hand as they all try and catch Cody Retzlaffs, who's now already got an almost 30-point advantage over Nick Nowak. Defending champion Crystal King buried down in 7th spot, almost half the points back of Cody Retzlaff. And not as we get ready to hit the halfway mark of the season, it's really important for those behind to get a leapfrog. You've got ties for 3rd, for 5th as well, and a handful of points splitting 3rd through 10 spots.
4 top 10s in a row for Nick Nowak. Make that the same for Miles Morse as well. Brent Smith got a double podiums last week, a 3rd in race number 1 and a 1st in race number 2. But Cody Retzlaff with that big points lead, Arjuna, 3 second place finishes and 1 win so far in the 4 points paying motos that we have had so far this season. All 4 of them on the podium. Retzlaff is trying to pull away in this championship and not look back. If he has a good night tonight, which right now he is currently not qualified on the board, I don't think he's with us tonight. So this is really going to blow. Oh, he is 4th place. I had him focused on my ATVO and didn't even realize. But Retzlaff 4th, King 1st, Nowak 2nd, Mageshik in 3rd as we take a look at all of our drivers, one of them being Cam Peterson, who we'll see a little bit later on, but he's still there. I think that's Zachary Drapkin too.
And more importantly, Doggo Cam. Now, if Zachary Drapkin can turn the... Oh, so cute. Now, how do we get Zach to get the dog to sit in the sim rig? That's the challenge that we've got to get done over the course of the night. There we go.
He grabbed him in a headlock. He's not going to try and get him in the sim, but we do get the cam before he gets to racing. I think right now it's a welcome distraction to try and keep him occupied before our open series goes. But I think once we go green in that open series, the dog might become a little bit more of an unwanted distraction.
No, never. Dogs are never unwanted distractions. I know what you're saying, though. I never liked a distraction when I was trying to go racing, and well, qualifying has just drawn to a close right as we were about to go and focus a bit on the racing action. So we'll go ahead and dive you down to the starting grid for the first of our 2 motos, the 2 10-lap main events that lie ahead. 10-minute main events, I should say, that lie ahead. Should be around maybe 12 laps or so of racing here. We'll see how long it will end up playing out. Again, running down trackside to see how they'll start up. Inverted top 3. We'll see Cameron McGijic launch us at the drop of the green flag. He'll be alongside Nick Nowak, who's up in the championship points. Crystal King, the one that wants to try and fight her way forward in points, alongside of the points leader, Cody Retzlaff. Matt Bennett was very impressive in qualifying last time. What can he do from 5th alongside Alex Lachenesse? It will be 7th for Cody Harrelson and then 8th for Brent Smith, Pacey Wygant, and then Joey Herbie in 9th and 10th position, with Austin Schreiber, James Mensch rolling out on the 6th row. Bobby Blowers, Tom Grady, Solomon Bershinger, and then in Miles Morse, Corey Crowther, Brock Smith rolling before you get down to Kenny Hoffman, Rance Llewellyn, Wes Graham, Mikey Klein, Austin McLaughlin, and Quentin Johnson. Dominic Berhout lines up at the very back. We got 25 trucks ready to battle out there. That's a strong field getting ready to fight around a very short track.
And a very short pace lap as well. They go rolling off of the back straightaway. That pace truck's going to be gone before we know it, Arjuna. And we're going to go racing here from Wild West for the first moto of the night. 12 laps on the docket.
Should be a fun one as well. Remember, you'll invert the top 3 when we go racing for the second of the motos, but pace truck off and away, and now it's Cameron McGijic in control. Crystal King will try and follow, though. Already 3 wide on the climb up towards turn number 1. Cody Retzlaff going to be absolutely bullied initially, but he then gets the elbows out on Nick Nowak and the AMX racing machine. There's a bit of concertina, a bit of a stack up at turn 1, but down into turn 2. Some fiberglass flying at the back of the pack, but tidy up front.
Retzlaff made quick work to get up into 3rd. It's a bit of a bottleneck further back as we've got some hoods laying on the ground, but everybody 3 wide in the mid pack at the front. They are all well and good away, with Cameron McGijic leading, Crystal King in 2nd, Retzlaff, Brent Smith, and Nick Nowak to round out the top 5. They're all single file. You got to look back to P6 to find the first side-by-side as Alex Lachenesse and Matt Bennett make contact for P6.
And you can see Tom Grady's lost the front end on his 535 Legion Speed Sports number machine that rides in 8th position. Up the hill they'll climb once more. Remember, we'll have about 12 laps of racing before they'll get a brief break, and they'll do it once again with the inverted top 3. To the inside went Lajeunesse in the 254, but doesn't work out. Looks like Mensch has a bit of an issue. Maybe Rance Llewellyn as well. A couple of cars parked at turn number 1, but all of this allowing the breakaways to build at the front of the field.
Llewellyn caught on the guardrail. That's going to be night done in Moto 1 for the 54. But up front, Crystal King is in full offense mode. Mageshik trying to defend. Crystal King with great outings at Bark River, a first place and a third, double podiums. And then you look at last week at Crandon, Arjuna, 25th and 16th. That is not what Crystal King was looking for. As we look at a replay of these drivers diving up turn number 1, contact from the number 51. That was Austin Schieber that got into the 294 of James Mensch, just pushing Rance Llewellyn onto that guardrail. And unfortunately, unlike some of the skateboarding athletes at the Summer Olympics coming up next month, he was not able to get off of that grind rail.
No, that would have been quite good, though, if he was able to make that work. But no dice out through turn 3. You see your leaders just continuing to cycle their way on through. We were wondering how difficult it would be to pass, knowing that two-wheel drive, you can't necessarily rely on the front tires to bail you out. You've got to get your momentum sorted early. Look at Magishik get, I don't want to say cattywampus, but slightly unsettled out of turn 4. King looks to the inside, end of lap 3, and there's 2/10 between them at the line.
I think this track is one of the most unique in off-road. I mean, it was one of the first ones. It was in the batch of 2. It was this one in Firebird that we got when iRacing Off-Road first was added, as we've got a battle developing for this race. Lead King's going to fall back into second place, but every single corner here, Arjuna, has a different entry. Turn 1, it's uphill. You really got to try and hit the brakes enough going up turn number 1 to get the truck to slow down. Here in turn 2, or back in turn 2, it's right off of a jump. Here in turn 3, it's entering off of another jump and going uphill. Turn 4, you're entering mid-air off of this small whoop section. Look, you got to start cornering middle of that whoop section to try and get the truck to point in turn 4. It's a different entry for each of these corners, and it is a difficult entry in each of these corners as we go on board with King. Now inside, 8 to go. King's looking for the race lead, but trying to buy her time to find the right spot. Here's the move to the inside. Not going to have enough momentum on the exit.
And now remember as well that when these two are fighting at the front, they're effectively fighting over just 2 points. Where is Cody Retzlaff, championship leader, directly behind Crystal King? So as much as King is fighting here, minimal gains to try and eat into the championship lead. That Retzlaff is already established as they wind back out of turn 3. I've got to say, though, really good in terms of how controlled Magishik is being amongst all of this pressure. He's running his different line, especially down here at turn 4, allowing King to do exactly what she wants, but not feeling the fluster.
Seems like the 253 is almost moving out of the line a little bit more. He's letting that back end step out a little bit more than King is. But I think the strategy right now from Crystal King is try and force the 253 into a mistake. I mean, it is tough to make on-track passes in these Pro 2s. You don't have all 4 wheels kind of powering you through, so it really is, like you mentioned earlier, Arjuna, a momentum game. That's exactly what King needs to do. Get the irons out, get the elbows out, try and knock Cameron Mageshik out of his main line. She tries to do it again in 3, gets the 253 upset, and here comes Crystal King for the race lead.
And while, you know, you expect physical racing in these Pro trucks, I don't necessarily know what Cameron Magishik's thinking. Looks quite calm amongst all of that, but as Cody Retzlaff sits up the back of King down out of the final corner, halfway through this first main event of the night, the first of the motos, you can see the top 6 or so stretching their legs. Kudos to Matt Bennett, you know, qualified well once again, and he's holding strong up front with 5 minutes or so less of racing left to run.
Brent Smith with some really, really good finishes in the first couple of rounds as well. Last 3 finishes for him in the last 3 motos were 8th, 3rd, and 1st. So some great running from Brent Smith. And if you recognize the name and the voice, he is one of the commentators for Champ Off-Road. You can catch them on their YouTube channel as well as networks. Check your local listings for when Champ Off-Road is going to be shown in your neck of the woods. But that 906 Dirt, number 45, having a good season so far. And great to see Brent Smith out here running in the Spec class, trying to go for another podium. This will be 3 in a row if he's able to get it.
And we have Brock Smith running a little bit further down as well. So he's in 17th right now amidst plenty of fighting, that is for sure, where, you know, as much as they're keeping it clean at the front, look at the lack of fiberglass on the front of some of these machines. Oh, we talk about Brock Smith, they're 3 wide in front of him. He jumps over the inside of turn 4, but he avoids getting collected by anything as they rise their way to turn 1 once more.
I did check that replay for Brock Smith, and the main incident that lost him all of that fiberglass, it wasn't really his fault. He had another truck that was spun ahead of him in the blind spot in turn 2, what they're coming up to now, and just had nowhere to go. Got slammed on the brakes and ended up with a good bit of damage and some trucks hitting him from behind as well. But now back up to the battle for the lead as we look for the moment back at that incident that did give Brock Smith all of that damage. It was the 51 that got turned around. This is Austin Schieber. 46 nowhere to go, 24 nowhere to go. And there was a little bit more of a stack up, I believe a little bit of an unsafe rejoin as well from Schieber. Admins did warn drivers in the Spec class about that as well after last week.
Look from up above as we head into the closing stages of the first of the main events tonight. Crystal King still working on the back of Cameron McGijic. It's Cody Harrelson that's trying to make the move, although he might have just run onto the inside of the wall, slowed his momentum, and back into line for the time being. But with 3 to go this time by. Remember, inverted top 3 will see Cody Retzlaff potentially lead us to the green at the start of the second main event. But can Crystal King, with that number 1 next to her name, try and slide her way to the point of the field?
He's going to have to try and get it done soon. 3 laps to go this next upcoming time by, or right now, actually, as we go on to lap number 10. Looking off the back of the number 1. She has Cody Retzlaff behind, but not really that big of a gap currently between herself and McGeshik. Retzlaff, for all intents and purposes, is relatively far back in this battle. King needs to focus forward at the 253. I think what she did earlier when we saw her make contact in turn 2 and 3, trying to get McGeshik moved out of that main line, was what she needs to do. But if you also check the gap immediately after she did that on the next time by the start finish, she had also grown that gap pretty considerably because she did lose momentum by using that bumper and causing that contact. She needs to really try and make it a one and done. You're only going to get a couple of shots at making contact for the race lead. If you use that bumper, you should in these off-road trucks. McGeshik had a little bit of a stake off turn 1.
There was a moment, that's for sure. We'll see the white flag next time by. If you're going to make a move, you're running out of time if you're Crystal King. But again, it's just 2 points, but 2 points that she desperately needs. Different lines between the two of them, but fixed setups. Track continues to wear, looks to the inside. One final time towards turn 4 before the white flag's in hand. Crystal King for a moment thought she was alongside, backs out of it. Can McGijic hold on that one more lap?
5 more corners to try and make the pass work. McGeshik gonna slide that back end out again. King keeps it tight again, but it's again not gonna be enough to take the lead. White flags in the air, Arjuna. Crystal King's only got 4 more corners to try and get this pass done for the first race.
And out of turn 1, what's she gonna be able to do? Tight to the inside, McGijic slides out wide, opens the door. They bang doors out through turn 2. Opportunity the long way around for the factory SimSport machine. Now can McGijic parking on the apex do exactly what he needs to do? Answer is yes. 2 more corners left to go. King back on the offense.
Can she get to the inside well enough? She cannot. McGeshik's gonna have the momentum on the outside. Only 1 more corner to go. You're on board with Crystal King. Does she go for the move in turn 4? She's gonna have to be quick about it. You're on board with McGeshik as he goes on defense in the final corner.
As any good sim racer does, he leans his way through that final corner, and he's done enough. It's from flag to flag, but with no margin of error. Cameron McGijic holds on to the win here in Moto 1 of the night at Wild West Motorsports Park. Crystal King did absolutely everything but come out on top. And well, you can tell from from McGijic's reaction, rather, he's still got work to do. Retzlaff will start Moto 2 from the front, and the rest of the trucks, some shedding their front ends, come their way to the end.
It was GG's on the radio from Crystal King and from Cameron McGeshik. Fun racing, I'm sure, from both sides in the cockpit, and some great racing for everybody at home to watch and for us to watch, Arjuna. That is exactly how every single virtual short course race should go. McGeshik with now another win on the season, and oh, by the way, becomes the first driver in the Spec class this season to get multiple race wins.
What will it do, though, in terms of championship? It only slightly narrows his margin down to the points leader, Cody Retzlaff. We'll talk about that in a few moments' time. Let's run you down through your race results. Remember, Race Control may have a couple of things to say here and there, but I don't think much to be said about that battle up front. GG's indeed between Magic the Privateer and the Factory Simsport #1 of Crystal King. Cody Retzlaff crosses the line in third for Team Rogue, doing exactly what he needs to do to continuously rack up the points before you get down to Brent Smith, Nick Nowak, and Tom Grady, who made his way in front of Matt Bennett at the start and didn't look back. Pacey Wygant and then Cody Harrelson and Miles Morse, the rest of your top 10. And down to 11 to find Kenny Hoffman, Corey Crowther, Solomon Bershinger, Wes Graham, Quinton Johnson, James Mensch, Brock Smith, Joey Herbie, Bobby Blowers, and then Austin McLaughlin. Those are all drivers scored on the leading lap. Austin Schreiber just about sneaks his way in as well. Mikey Klein 1 lap down, and then Alex Lachenesse unfortunately involved in a couple of incidents, 2 laps down for him, but at least he finishes, unlike Rance Llewellyn and Dominic Berhout, who are down 11 and 13 laps respectively. Wow, what great racing, and that just sets the tone. Let's not forget, we've got one more moto to come in the Spec class, and then the Open Championship will take center stage. Don't go anywhere here on RaceSpotTV. More great racing action yet to come. Welcome back to RaceSpotTV for coverage of Racecraft Off-Road powered by Next Upper Racing. One moto in the books, one still left to go, and the drivers get a brief warm-up session with which to get themselves dialed back in to the ever-changing state of the track. Arjuna Kankipati alongside of Joshua Lee and ready to dive into the starting grid for the second of the motos for the Spec class drivers. If you're just joining us for the very first time here on RaceSpotTV for coverage of Dirt Night in America, well, take a look at our Racecraft race analysis. We have 2 12-lap features tonight and 50 points for your race winner, down 2 points respectively through the class. And of course, fixed setup for these drivers, open setup for the drivers in the Open Championship left for us to focus on slightly later on. Here's a look though at that starting grid where Cody Retzlaff, the points leader, will be alongside of Crystal King, the defending champion, hungry to try and grab the victory. Cameron McGijic, fresh off his victory, is alongside of Brent Smith, Nick Nowak, and Tom Grady, make up the rest of the top 6, with Matt Bennett, Pacey Wygant, and then Cody Harrelson, Miles Morse, Kenny Hoffman, and Corey Crowther, the rest of the top 12. Back to 13 to find Solomon Bershinger, Wes Graham, Quinton Johnson, James Mensch, Brock Smith, and Joey Herbie. Your top 18 with Bobby Blowers, Austin McLaughlin, Austin Schreiber, Mikey Klein, Alex Lachenesse, and Rance Llewellyn, your top 24. Unsure if Dominic Berhout will take to the starting grid. Josh, they're rolling and ready to go racing. How excited are you? What have you learned from the first 12 laps we've seen?
Well, I learned these top 3 are going to continue to battle, and I think in this one, did Crystal King learn a little bit more about being on the offense rather than the defense? I think we're going to find out as Cody Retzlaff is on the defense for the first time tonight.
And so Pace Truck is off and away, and Field is left in control of the purple Team Rogue machine. Crystal King looking over the left shoulder to try and judge the timing of the throttle launch. Retzlaff off and away, and we're racing for Moto 2 here at Wild West. Up into the opening corner. King, no challenge from behind, and so all as they concertina down out of the opening corner. Look at the stack-ups, a couple of cars trying to almost Ross Chastain their way around the first turn, down to turn 2, a little bit of a pinch behind. Crystal King looking aggressive though on Cody Retzlaff.
McLaughlin is the one that got turned to the back of the field. We're 3 wide for third with Brent Smith, Mageshik, and Wygant joining that group. But back at the front, Retzlaff is going to be on defense, looking in his rear view mirror. Crystal King, the exact same spot that she was in the first race, being in second place, trying to chase down your race leader. Brent Smith's gonna mount the curve in the background, trying to keep Mageshik and Wygant behind. Wygant in the 00 is gonna make a pass for fourth on last race winner, 253, Cameron Mageshik.
Is that going to mean that breakaway is going to see the top two stretch their legs? Whoa, Mageshik gets a bit of contact from behind. It sets off the chain reaction. Tom Grady, the one that got turned around in that Legion Speed Sports 535. And, well, chain reaction continues. That was one of the Nitro Circus machines. Kenny Hoffman, I believe, that got cattywampus off out of the opening corner. Brock Smith has taken the trip back to pit lane, has joined Mikey Klein, who found himself grinding on the wall. Let's go back to the opening lap, though, and figure out what first happened to Austin McLaughlin.
Just got pinched up on that outside line. It was 3 wide, and somebody else getting some pretty big contact as hoods went flying everywhere. A little bit more contact in turn 2 as well off of that initial turn 1 contact. Everybody beating and banging on each other towards the back of the field, but at the front for the start, and still it was single file, and with these drivers now still duking it out at the front with Retzlaff in the lead, King in second, Brent Smith, Cameron Mageshik top 4. If that sounds familiar, it's the exact same top 4 that we had in just one moto ago, but this is in a different order. King still in second place, but now Brent Smith is on the podium for the moment. Retzlaff leads the way as well, and Retzlaff still has his podium place finish streak going that is now continuing through the season.
Tyson Miller says he wishes he could be selling all of those fiberglass hoods. I heard from Dave Arnold that they don't sell them, they just give them away at off-road races, so I'm guessing they go through them quite quickly. You can see movers and shakers on the left. Haven't really seen too much in terms of drivers charging forward, exception maybe of the likes of Joey Herbie, who's on the inside of Corey Crowther, going to be able to get the move done through turn 1, and Borshinger's going to try and follow as well. This is where further back in the pack, all of the little moves that you make, you've got to really watch those around you, try and understand where they're going to go. Cameron McGidgick, Brent Smith, they're slowly trying to close back up to your race leaders. You can see Brent Smith going very out wide out of turn 3. Seems as though right now, though, clean air reigns supreme as Cody Retzlaff out of turn 4 is going to lead at the end of lap 4.
Time and laps quickly winding down. These Wild West lap times a little bit under 1 minute, about a high 50-second range for these Pro 2 trucks to make their way around these 4 corners. King makes door contact with Retzlaff, gets the truck upset. We're side by side for the race lead. Now, arguably, in the first moto, this is where King lost that battle for the lead with Mageshik. She did not do this crossover move correctly, and I think, again, it was not exactly what she needed to do, but now she gets the elbows out again. More contact for the race lead, but it's not going to be enough to get Retzlaff out of the top spot.
I think that was a little bit more contact than initially was anticipated because it slows you down as well. Let's not forget two-wheel drive like we were talking about earlier. You can't rely on the fronts to get you out of trouble. Oh, King clambered into the side of Retzlaff. Brent Smith came piling in as well, and somehow 3 into 1, no changes arise. McGidgick's right there as well, back up towards the opening corner with officially 5 laps complete. They fan themselves out, King and Smith alongside as they plunge down. You can see gravity work with them into turn 2. You can tell the intensity's rising. 6 laps to go at the line.
Nick Nowak giving a quick turning into me, dude, in the back as he's in his own fight, but in second place. King now under fire from Brent Smith. They both make contact. King's gonna lose second place. She's gonna lose third place as Mageshik bullies himself back onto the podium in P3. Beautiful pass from Smith. Can Mageshik now complete this pass in turn 4? Yes, he can. I think last time by this corner, Crystal King just used a little bit too much of that bumper, a little bit too much contact. She ended up going from just trying to move Retzlaff out of the line to getting damage on that front end and losing too much momentum, and exact same thing with the contact with Brent Smith as well. She's now on the back foot P4.
Plenty of trouble further behind, by the way. You can see here cars just ping-ponging off of one another. You can battle here. It's not necessarily always the smart thing to do. And Crystal King now down in fourth. We'll find out what she's still got left in terms of the machine underneath to try and fight her way back. Is this, though, Cody Retzlaff's chance, Josh, to break away and try and hold on to the victory here, because points leader coming into the night, surely points leader by a comfortable margin halfway through the season as things stand right now.
Best opportunity that Retzlaff has, and just to show just how good he's been running in this Spec Class Championship so far. The third place that he had in the Moto earlier on tonight was his worst finish of the season. He has not finished off of the podium, and that bronze medal that he got in the last Moto inevitably was the one race where he's put a foot wrong, so to speak. So Retzlaff has been really, really quick in that number 21, and now Brent Smith contending for this race win, 6/10 back. Gonna need a mistake from Retzlaff, something that the number 21 has really only made on the stopwatch in qualifying. Hasn't really made that in a race yet.
No, more trouble, by the way. You mentioned Nick Nowak embroiled in the fight further behind. Well, fight that's got a little bit too physical, I fear, for what they were expecting. Back to the replay machine. You can see down into turn 2. 145 slides its way on deep. Oh, and just the narrowest of contact sends the car onto the inside wall, and the field streaks their way on through. Nowak eventually was able to get dislodged, though.
You can see those couple of more trucks going by, and he's stuck on that guardrail. Oh, he got a little bit of help.
Now, I can't quite tell who it is. Bam! There we go. Don't tell me that person got stuck.
No, that was Cody Harrelson. Now, the 4 is in the pit lane. I'm not sure if it is a related incident that put him in the pit lane or if it was the same thing. It was. He did get stuck and then ended up towing it back to the pit lane after helping the 145 and Nick Nowak.
Wow. I mean, a good deed goes punished. You know how it's meant to be unpunished, but anyway. Brent Smith, 6/10 off the back of Cody Retzlaff at the end of lap 9. So once again, 3 to go. Leaders not really fighting too much, so let's go back to where they are fighting. You got Wes Gray and Wes the Mess alongside of Kenny Hoffman, Rance Llewellyn recovering from the incident in Moto 1, then James Mench and Tom Grady. You mentioned he had the incident up at turn 1 earlier in this respective Moto. What can he do in trying to fight his way further forward?
This gaggle of cars back here, all from 10th on back. You can see 3 out of the 5 missing their hoods, including the driver we're on board with now, giving a little bit of a sky wheelie coming over the jump. But let's go on board with Wes Graham. You can see the use of the VR headset, pretty common in the off-road sector of the iRacing world. And honestly, one of the only world championships, at least in recent memory, Arjuna, where I think VR reigned supreme over triples or any other kind of simulator.
Yeah, and motion as well in some cases. There's a big send from Tom Grady. Not going to park it on the apex, though. We'll see a bit of a drag race back up towards the line and in towards the opening corner behind. And you can see just how much they lost out as well. But 2 to go. Your leaders coming back around to see the white flag. Brent Smith's lost a bit of the front hood. Don't worry about that. He seems quite settled in second position. Cody Retzlaff comfortable up front, and Crystal King not getting close to the back of Cameron McGishik, in fact dropping back in this last lap.
McGishik and Smith did end up making a little bit of contact. Brent Smith going up into turn number 1. Why he lost that hood was he got a little bit too close to that inside wall, gave it a little bit of a tap. Hood goes flying. McGishik ends up making contact by the sudden stop in front from the 45. But with the white flag now out, it's all Cody Retzlaff at the front of this field, and he goes a little bit wide in turn 1. That opens the door slightly for Brent Smith. I'm not going to say it's fully open. I'm going to say it's a little bit cracked, as here comes turn number 2. Smith looks to the inside, needs a mistake from Retzlaff, makes a little bit of contact to the right rear fender, but it's not enough to get Retzlaff out of the groove. Let's see what he does in 3.
At the end of the day, I think what we're learning, though, is consistency. That's what some of these drivers have very much focused on trying to ensure. And for Cody Retzlaff, he's going to head out of the final corner, and a quite remarkable streak. Half the season in the books, and no finish lower than 3rd so far. Podium streaks to boot, and it's a second victory of the season as this Team Rogue number 21 crosses the line. A winner in Moto 2 at the Wild West Motorsports Park for Racecraft Off-Road, powered by Next Level Racing.
Retzlaff again on top, again on the podium. He is right now the most consistent driver in this Spec Class Championship and goes to victory lane again. Crystal King will finish once again off the podium, but how about Matt Bennett, Miles Morris, Joey Herbie, Pacey Wygant, all with top 10 finishes at the end of this race as well.
And Joey Herbie in particular, 11 positions gained as some drivers crossed the line. And, well, there was already fiberglass that had been thrown everywhere. There's just a bit more now to add to the pile and to the collection with which to enjoy. Let's head down to the provisional results. Again, remember, Race Control may have the decision whether to adjudicate a couple of those incidents across the field, but hopefully nothing major. That is definitely not the correct result sheet, though. This should be the correct one. Cody Retzlaff, your race winner, and then down in second for Brent Smith and Cameron McGidgick in third. Crystal King, Matt Bennett, Miles Morse, Joey Herbie, Pacey Wygant, and Corey Crowther just in front of Kenny Hoffman to round out your top 10. A couple of the drivers having some proper drag races to the line as well. Always great to see. Wes Graham, James Mensch, Tom Grady, Quentin Johnson, Rance Llewellyn, Solomon Bershinger, and then Bobby Blowers, Cody Harrelson, Nick Nowak, and Alex Lachanesse. You get into your used truck lot, those that finished a couple of laps down. Austin Schreiber, Austin McLaughlin, and then Brock Smith, Mikey Klein, and Dominic Burhoot. So a look top to bottom at your race results, and looking forward to having a chat with some of our drivers. Let's start with Moto 2 winner on the night and your championship leader, Cody Retzlaff, who's standing by with Joshua Lee.
Well, another win for you, Cody, and you continue your streak of nothing but podium finishes in this Spec Class Championship. Let's start first with that first moto. You ended up finishing still on the podium, but in P3. Is there any specific challenges that kept you from battling with Crystal and Cameron for the race win?
Not really. I just wanted to get a good finish without taking myself out. I'm really bad at this track and I've been sick all week, so I had no opportunities to really practice.
Well, bad at this track and you end up top of the podium in that second moto. Was it the invert that went right? Was it really just a ton of defense that you felt kind of moved your confidence up at this racetrack?
Yeah, I planned on just once I seen that I started on pole to make my truck as wide as possible because I knew there's faster trucks behind me.
But they were not able to grab that race win from you. This extends your points lead now heading into the last half of the calendar. Firebird and double visits to Bark River and Crandon. Is the championship in your focus right now, or is it really just trying to knock off consistent finishes and kind of improve a little bit more in these Pro 2s throughout this campaign?
Just focusing on getting as many podiums as possible. I know the rest of the schedule I'm pretty good at most of the tracks, so yeah, just focusing on getting those podiums and see where I end up.
We look forward to seeing the rest of the calendar and your racing. Congratulations on your double podiums and your win tonight and the continuation of that streak.
Thanks, guys.
That was a chat with Cody Retzlaff. Let's go see if we can catch up with Cameron McGidgick, the winner of Moto 1. Cam, what a drive that was to fend off the pressure of Crystal King. Talk us through, well, how you were feeling at the end of that first race.
Oh, man. I was sweating bullets for sure. I knew they were fast. That invert kind of helped me out. I knew I had to just be super wide, make sure I hit my lines, no big mistakes, and just kind of keep my momentum going and try to stay out front.
And you talk about that momentum, you know, another podium as well. How are you feeling in this Pro 2 Spec Championship? Of course, Cody Retzlaff's just had an amazing first half of the season, but you've not had a bad half of the season by any means yourself.
Yeah, Cody's driving great. Yeah, he's doing an awesome job. Crystal's doing an awesome job. My start to the season was not ideal. But hey, we're turning things around. We're moving in the right direction. I know I can compete now, so that's pretty good. That's good to look forward to. So,
congratulations on the double podium, the win in Moto 1, and we'll see you in a week's time over at Firebird Motorsports Park.
All right, thank you. Have a good one.
That was Cameron McGijic. We'll catch up as well with Brent Smith, finishing second in the second moto of the night. Brent, talk to us about the evening as a whole. 2 races, 2 intense races, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was a great race. It was fun. It always is a great time to get together with all these guys and gals. And I mean, you really got to be up on the wheel. And sometimes you have to move someone out of the way to take a pass because you follow them for so long. But the first race, I wanted to get to third to get in that invert with Cody, but just couldn't get there. They're running such a great pace. Just tried my best. And then race 2, I just tried to let it all hang out and try to run to the front. I felt I was faster than Cody in some areas, and he had some more speed than I did in others. So he checked up in the corner there at the end, and I had nowhere to go. I was all locked up on the binders, and my hood fell off. I didn't mean to hit him. I already apologized. But it's just how you have to race sometimes. You have to be aggressive, and man, it's just fun.
How much as well, do these smaller tracks compare to the bigger track? Because I often talk about that as a bit of a championship storyline, right? The first 2 and the last 2 races, you got Bark River, you got Crandon, a little bit more flowing. Here it's just a bit of a Royal Rumble in some ways to try and stay up front and be there at the end to grab the checkered flag. Is that kind of reflected behind the wheel as well?
Yeah, and you just got to adapt to wherever you're at. And yeah, the big tracks like Crandon, Bark River, I love them. I've been around them since I've been a little kid, and since I've been a broadcaster, getting to watch all these great drivers perform, you kind of pick up a little bit off the table as you watch. And we just been around it, my twin brother and I, our whole life, and we just want to be as good as we possibly can. And the 906 crew, I can't thank them enough for keeping us going. And I love these short tracks. I love drivers tracks. You got to be aggressive, and they're all fun. But yeah, you just got to be ready for whatever it's thrown at you, because it could get rough really fast, and you want to be in that top group.
And, well, you did great in terms of running up towards the front today. Can't wait to see how the back half of the season goes, Brent, and we'll see you in a week's time over at Firebird.
Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate everything you guys do, and man, I just got to thank 906, everyone over there, Jeff Ives in the group, and just everyone we get to run with, and Race Driven, Wendricks Trust, Yokohama Tire, Impact, and my girlfriend for letting me still be a kid, get to be out here running race trucks, and I love it to death.
Oh, great to chat with a couple of the drivers as we wrap up coverage of the Spec Championship. As mentioned, though, we continue the championship fight next time out when we make our way to the Firebird Motorsports Park. Say that one 5 times fast. Going to catch us out, that is for sure, as we adapt to a new name in the sim world. Although, I think one thing let's remember, Josh, haven't mentioned it so far today, Wild West Motorsports Park, immortalized in iRacing, no longer active out there in real-world motorsports.
It is not, and at least for this season of iRacing competition as well, if you want to go racing this Wild West Motorsports Park track in the official series and you end up not seeing it on the calendar, well, unfortunately, still a little bit of an iRacing bug going from practice into the race session at this track, so it's off the calendar for now while the iRacing dev team works to get that fixed as soon as they can.
And, well, I'm hoping they get it up and running once again, because we saw some great racing, and we'll see some more great racing in a couple of moments' time. Don't go anywhere on RaceSpotTV. Coverage continues, but with Racecraft Off-Road and its Open Championship Drivers Challenge at the top level to get the trucks figured out and to get up to speed with the competition around them. We'll be right back here on RaceSpotTV. 2 motos down, 2 to go, but this time in Racecraft Off-Road, powered by Next Level Racing and its Open Championship. Welcome back to RaceSpotTV and to Dirt Night in America. Already seen how chaotic, how frenetic the Wild West Motorsports Park can be, and it's about to find out who's going to be the wildest of them all and the first of 2 main events that's ready to go. They're still finishing up qualifying as Arjuna Kankipati is alongside of Joshua Lee, but Josh, it's been a really chaotic start to the season in many ways, and we take a look at the championship standings. Josh Edmondson putting the pressure back onto Connor Barry, but you look at this, there's only 18 points that cover 4 drivers with 2 rounds complete.
Barry leading, not by a lot. Edmondson, Peterson, and Winkler throw a blanket over them. Drake Matag, Cody Vanderveer, they're not out of it either. This last point is close. And everybody is wanting to go for this championship, and Connor Barry has to look back and try and protect his point lead. This is the closest I think I've ever seen it against Connor Barry.
Apologies for the technical issue. We'll get Josh sounding silky smooth in just a few moments' time. But yes, championship looking very, very tasty. And we've already talked a little bit about the track itself. Let's talk about the format for the racing we've got in store. Most importantly, the fact that Josh now opens setups available for the drivers to try and dial their trucks in. Especially important knowing that we do have the track wear to factor in across of the 2 motos.
Track wear, as well as you have to factor in that a lot of these drivers were in the iRacing Off-Road Championship Series, and these drivers are some of the best on the iRacing service when it comes to off-road. Sometimes the only difference between these drivers' skill level is going to be what they have under the hood.
And 700 horsepower to tame out of those 2 rear tires at 0 to 60 in around 3.5 seconds, and you're going to do that plenty given the stop and start nature of the track here today. We are ready to go racing, though. Drivers are getting their way trackside to the starting grid for the race that lies ahead. Let's take you down trackside and run you down through the 17 Pro 2 trucks that are going to get ready to go. A slightly smaller field than in the Pro 2 Spec Championship, but you best believe the competition is fierce as ever. Remember, inverted top 3 means that Cam Peterson fastest of them all with the pressure on in qualifying. Connor Barry is going to take over, though, the run to the green alongside of Josh Edmondson, and 1, 2, 3 as they run in the championship. And Keaton Swain alongside to try and spoil the front. Drake Mittag has been plenty exciting, and he'll be alongside of Zachary Drapkin on row number 3. 7th is Robbie Swan with Sean Winkler alongside. Cody Vanderveer, Cody Winicki make up your top 10. Anthony James, Connor Parisi, 11th and 12th positions with 13th from Nathan Matoxin. James Burke, 14th, Taylor Vandenbush, Mike Budson, and then Greg Johnson, the rest of the starting field. As ever, we can take you down to the wall of webcams where the drivers are sitting and getting ready to run. I can tell you that we have, well, still West the Mess in the top left. Dogs has disappeared. Nope. Dogs getting some attention from Zachary Drapkin, just out of the camera potentially. And then Cam Peterson, Connor Barry, Drake Mittag, Sean Winkler, Connor Parisi, and Josh Edmondson. The rest of the drivers, some with helmets on in terms of headsets, and ready to go racing.
You can see those Pimax VR headsets on Edmondson and Peterson, the Nitro Circus Sim Racing team cars. But everybody getting ready to go racing. We saw the excitement in the Spec class, and there's a late addition to the Zoom party as well.
Cody Vanderveer, if you're wondering, in the middle now on that bottom row, as Josh Edmondson just making sure he gets comfortable in that Pimax VR headset. Like you were saying, Josh, one of the few disciplines where we often see that, and in the case of Cam Peterson, motion as well.
I will say, I do also prefer the VR when it comes to these pro trucks. Gives you a lot more visibility out of the left and right as well, and I feel like you can honestly judge your distances a little bit easier, and we know that off-road racing in the real world and here in the virtual world is a game of inches in terms of making those passes work.
Is it fair to put you on the spot to ask for a prediction? Yeah, is it fair? I don't know. But I'm going to do it anyway. 12 laps of racing ahead. Cam Peterson fastest of all in qualifying, but Connor Barry ready to lead us to the green. Josh, who comes out on top?
I like Barry in the invert pole. I like Barry on defense especially, but I just know how hungry that number 1 of Josh Edmondson is to walk away with another victory. I think it's going to be close between those two. I think Peterson's got a fighting shot as well, but it's very difficult to bet against Connor Barry, especially when he is the one that is controlling the race from the jump. So I just have to go with that number 2. The red plate on the side of that truck means he is the points leader. But Edmondson in the number 1. Right, you can honestly flip a coin against those top 2 and get a good pick.
Yeah, could go either way. I also get the sense that we are going to see a race where passing is going to be difficult, and so, take your opportunity when it is presented to you. Do not wait. As simple as that sounds, much more difficult to actually execute and to get done out on track. The field stacks up, big stack up as well there, almost running into one another as Barry holds them and then unleashes 700 horsepower under his right foot. He leads them up the hill in his Team CBR General Tire Nitro Circus Sim Racing machine, and as Zachary Drapkin tries to look the long way around in that red line all 56. Tidy run through the opening quarter, less fiberglass going flying. Look how wide Drapkin went, trying to make the move on Drake Mittag down into turn 2.
Real respectful turn 1, a little bit less of a respectful turn 2. We've got some contact in the midfield. Robbie Swan gets making contact with Cody Weinecke and more. But at the front, it's Barry ahead of Edmondson, ahead of Swain, who's made a pass on Cam Peterson for P3. Everybody else down through the remainder of this field. Only a handful of drivers making moves on that opening lap. Big loser, Robbie Swan, down from 7th to 10th.
It was a great qualifying effort, but maybe just getting slightly swarmed on that initial start and now losing some momentum. Already 7/10 the margin across the line. Josh Edmondson trying to pull away from those behind. Remember, Keaton Swain made the move on Cam Peterson. It's no longer Nitro Circus Sim Racing 1, 2, 3, and down the back some troubles for Anthony James. That Sim Coach's number 21 thought about a move to turn 3.
Not going to be able to make the move work. A little bit of contact between Drapkin, Mittag, and a couple of those drivers fighting it from 5th on back. But Barry and Edmondson, now Edmondson on full offense attack mode to try and catch back up to the number 2 in the lead. This is one of the larger gaps that we have seen tonight compared to the Spec Class Championship. Can Edmondson make the ground up? Track's going to start to take in a little bit of rubber. It's going to start to dry out. You're going to start to see that line to develop and start to see these drivers have to deal with the track wear. Is that going to be what pulls Connor Barry back towards Josh Edmondson? You're on board with Cam Peterson as he explodes down the hill into turn 2.
And you can see both drivers in VR. Nitro Circus Sim Racing teammates. Edmondson 2nd, Peterson in 4th, and as Josh Lee mentioned, not Josh Edmondson, who's of course racing right now, Pimax VR headset. So I think in particular the reason why these two drivers love them for the short course racing is the ability to have a wide FOV. You notice that Cam Peterson really looking into the corners, but Edmondson a little bit more stationary over the course of the corner. A little bit of a different way to then use peripheral vision to try and ascertain all those different references. And these short races, you saw Edmondson getting ready to go. I can only imagine the amount of sweat that gets built up, and hopefully they wash those VR headsets somewhat regularly.
And those Pimaxes as well, they have a little bit more resolution than kind of the more mainstream VR headsets. I think they are a really, really good option for anybody looking for a VR headset in the iRacing space. Higher resolution, a little bit of a higher frame rate as well. No sense why. It's the team choice for Nitro Circus Sim Racing team, and they've been running the Pimax colors now for a couple of years. I know Edmondson especially has been using the Pimax VR for a couple of years as well. As we look on board, Drake Mittag, Zachary Drapkin is there in a fight. Edmondson and Swain are in a fight for 2nd, and Swain is going to have to surrender the 2nd place spot as side by side for Drapkin and Mittag for 5th.
Just some technical issues there for Josh Edmondson as the red line all 56 holds the inside, forces the TCR 518 down to 6th position, and we get that wonderful little drone sort of a shot as they plunge down the hill towards turn 2, and with Sean Winkler and Cody Weinecke directly behind. Now, I've been kind of wondering as we get towards the halfway stage of this race. Cam Peterson was very quick in qualifying, but seems to maybe not be as good in race trim. He's probably got a similar truck, though, to Barry and Edmondson in his team machines. How much more comfortable is everyone going to be, though, in the latter stages of this race? Are we going to start to see some moves up towards the front as Keaton Swain closes on Barry up front?
the setup differences in qualifying are, of course, going to be a lot more than in race trim. Not really a trim, but they do set them up a little bit differently for the races. But if you were tuning in the iRacing Off-Road Championship Series in those Pro 4s, and you remember by the end of a 12-lap or 14 or 16-lap race that we had on some of the bull ring tracks, by the end of one of those races, it was really a thin black line that was all the way around in the main groove of the racetrack, where all those tires and all 4 wheels beating to the dirt was starting to wear in, and it would get very, very slick and dry out in that groove. You're not going to see a whole lot of that for 2 reasons. One, only 17 drivers here compared to the high 20 car count that we had for the World Championship, and these are Pro 2 trucks. There is only 2 wheels that are hitting the dirt and spinning on the dirt. Those front wheels, of course, they're making contact with the dirt, but no power to power those wheels around, just those rear wheels. So you're seeing a little bit less track wear. Yes, you are seeing a little bit of it, but there also is those resets for the warm-up as a stack-up in turn 2 led that number 19 of Nathan Matox into some damage. That was Anthony Janes involved in this one as well. And just a stack up in turn 2. Very easy to do in that one of the blind corners, and very similar to turns 1 and 4, having a blind apex.
Yeah, and you know, you look back through all of the chaos that we had in the Spec Championship, not only are these drivers a challenge in terms of the setup making to therefore be an open spec setup championship, but it's also a bit more experience as well, right? So we've seen a little less clumsiness, I think, in some ways, but I will also attribute that to the fact that we are just 17 Pro 2 trucks rather than, what, the 25 that were thundering around for the 2 motos that we had slightly earlier on tonight. Connor Barry goes out wide, really making use of all the track on offer out of that opening corner. Still, his teammate sits behind, not putting the pressure on just yet. A handful of laps to go here at the very front of the field. A little bit more chaotic further back. Greg Johnson in that Team Watson racing machine has gotten past Taylor Vandenbush.
Now on board with that just a trim lawn service machine as they work their way through turn 2. Going towards the back of the field for these 2, Greg Johnson and Taylor Vandenbush, but in a battle now for P12 that really goes to show how, especially in these off-road trucks, Arjuna, you really cannot give up. I mean, I gotta do the comparison to the Formula 1 world, where a little bit of a damage to the side pod, a little bit of a damage to the front wing could mean coming into the pits for extensive repairs or fully retiring the car. We can see multiple trucks with hoods missing, fenders gone, and they're still running on the racetrack. These trucks are a testament to never giving up in the world of motorsports and never giving up on the racetrack. You never know exactly what could happen, as we just see Anthony Janes making a move on Mike Budsey, and both of these trucks damaged, and both of them not giving up, looking for valuable points.
Little bit of a slide for Nathan Matoxin and James Burke collected in the earlier incident, of course, in a little squabble as well. Again, a representation of close racing up and down through the field, but as they argue for the final points up for grabs, we check back in with the leaders. 3 laps to go and 3 up front. Peterson being dropped, Drapkin holding his own against Drake Mittag, who's more concerned, I think, about Sean Winkler, who's had, let's be honest, a great start to the season so far. Great opening round, been showing his speed, showing his consistency, and what could he do in that 720?
4 top 10 finishes for Sean Winkler as well, and that number 720. And yes, you can have him try and sell you a house, Sean Winkler. And I love the proper advertisement. It is right in the perfect spot as a well-readable phone number that you can give a call if you want to give Sean Winkler a ring to help you out. But he's got his company on the side of the truck as well. That is A+ sim racing advertisement. Is we've got 2 to go. Edmondson now 3/10 back. He might have a fighting chance, but it's against the 2-time world champion.
And again, I keep going back to this point. It's 2 points a position. Is it really worth it for Josh Edmondson to force his way past Connor Barry, his teammate, for 2 points this early in the season? Maybe not, but there's still only 3 rounds to go after we're done here at Wild West. Firebird to come, of course, next up. And the defending champion probably does not want to sit down and hang back for too much longer. Again, remember, the fights further behind continue. They've been very coordinated up towards the front ever since Keaton Swain made the move on Cam Peterson to fight his way to a podium spot. 1 more lap to go in Moto 1, and Barry leads up to turn number 1.
Judy, you mentioned, is it worth it in the points talk for Edmondson to try and bully his way around Barry? Well, is it worth it for Edmondson as a driver? Remember the double second place finishes he had last week at Crandon? We talked to him post-race, and he said, you know, honestly, it stung a little bit getting the double second places at Crandon. He thought he could win both of those motos, but now as we go into the final 2 corners, does he have anything for Barry? Lets that back end slide out, tries to make a little bit of contact with the back bumper, but it's not going to be enough. One final corner might be a little bit too much of a send to do on a teammate. Let's see if he's got it.
And in contrast as well to the Spec Championship, where Cody Retzlaff's been on the podium in every single race, some of these drivers have had their issues, but fighting back from them, the mark of a champion, Connor Barry across the line, the punch of the fist. It's race victory number 1 of the night. What can he do from 3rd position in Moto number 2 when we go racing in a few moments' time? Oh, I'm feeling excited now as well, because that was tense all the way to the very end. You get the feeling by no means is it done and dusted, a flag-to-flag victory for anybody over the 12 laps.
And that top 3, very, very familiar to viewers of the iRacing off-road world. Barry, Edmondson, and Swain. You can add Peterson and Drapkin into that one as well. A top 5 full of very, very familiar names, and very, very familiar to see all 5 of them finishing top 5 in a race.
And again, these drivers get that brief session now to get an adjustment onto the track conditions and maybe dial in their setup that much further. But Nitro Circus 1, 2, and 4 with Barry, Edmondson, and Peterson all making their way on into some rather good finishing spots. Keaton Swain spoils the party though in 3rd, with Zachary Drapkin in 5th, and then Drake Mittag, Sean Winkler, Cody Winicky, Cody Vanderveer, and Robbie Swan, your top 10. Everyone finishes on the lead lap. Rather clean affair, all things considered, with Connor Parisi 11th, Greg Johnson in 12th, and then Taylor Vandenbush, Anthony James, Mike Budson, Nathan Matoxin, and James Burke rounding out your 17 truck field. Don't go anywhere here on RaceSpotTV. We've got one more Moto to come. 12 more laps of racing from the Wild West Motorsports Park. Twelve more laps of action lie in front of us for Racecraft Off-Road, powered by Next Level Racing and its Open Championship. The only question that really remains is, are we going to see an action-packed affair, or is it going to be a little bit more of just putting the pressure on and hoping someone makes a mistake at the front? Arjuna Kankipati alongside of Joshua Lee and ready to find out exactly what's going to happen. And Josh, a relatively close affair at the front. Yes, Cam Peterson dropped back. 3 cars within 1.5 seconds come the checkered flag. Connor Barry grabs the victory. He'll start from 3rd though. It's Keaton Swain trying to now lead from flag to flag.
Now we're seeing Keaton Swain lead us to green. We're seeing him now try and defend it to the drivers behind. It's a very, very fast drivers as well. That top three invert really makes things interesting, because honestly, if we didn't have that invert Arjuna, I'd say the exact same top 3 that we just had, you can keep them the exact same for this second race. It's not going to be the same thing that we're going to see, and I think maybe these drivers might get a little bit more antsy. I don't know if Edmondson wants to finish 2nd place for a 4th moto in a row.
Again, maybe not, but consistency is what brings you to the brink of championships. Is that what he's going to be maybe thinking about? Maybe stay out of trouble. It is not a teammate that's going to lead, though, into the opening corner, so maybe a little bit more fisticuffs to be thrown. as we get set to go racing. The driver's got their marching orders to head down trackside to the starting grid. Let's run you down through how they'll line up for the race that is ahead. And what an exciting one we're going to be seeing with Keaton Swain, the one looking more in the rearview mirror. Josh Edmondson alongside with Connor Barry and Cam Peterson, a Nitro Circus sim racing affair on row number 2. It will be Zachary Drapkin and Drake Mittag, 5th and 6th positions, and they may be one to try and spoil the fun if they can close the advantage early doors. Sean Winkler, Cody Winicky, and then Cody Vanderveer and Robbie Swan, the rest of your top 10. Connor Parisi and then Greg Johnson, 11th and 12th positions, with Taylor Vandenbush, Anthony James, Mike Budson, Nathan Matoxin, and James Burke. 17 trucks ready to do battle. Always great to be able to run down through the field, and just in the nick of time as well, because off and away they go. How do we see this one playing out, Josh, as the pace truck is ready to pull off and away? What does Keaton Swain do from the front?
It's gonna have to really make that truck wide, and Edmondson's gonna have to be aggressive. Same thing with Barry, but it all starts on this race start. Pace truck goes away. Edmondson's gotta try and time Keaton Swain perfect.
You hear the roar of the engines. It wasn't a bad jump from Edmondson, but Keaton Swain will have the advantage up towards the opening corner. What does Barry do with his teammate, the one that he's challenging? He looks to the inside. On the outside, Edmondson carries the momentum and the speed, and their battle resumes down to turn 2. Winkler very, very loose on the rear end. He brings it back under control. Edmondson seems to challenge Keaton Swain for the time being, though, as Buds and Matoxin come together down at turn 2. It's now single file finally at the front.
I was going to say that move from Connor Barry in turn number 1 was aggressive, but it was from a 2-time world champion, so it ended up absolutely perfect for Barry. He stays 3rd. Edmondson stays in 2nd place with Keaton Swain in the lead. Winicky and Matag side by side for 4th. Give that spot to the number 903. We've got a truck around. That's Zachary Drapkin in the Red Line Oil 56 turned around backwards.
Fortunately, doesn't have to watch the rejoin necessarily. He's down in 16th spot, but with no change inside of the top 3, more chaos behind, and wow, oh wow, oh wow, track blocker, and it's still raging on down to turn 2. Looks like Greg Johnson may have got the worst of it, but wow, we're gonna have to grab a couple of looks at the replay there.
Cam Peterson involved in that one, and I unfortunately have to say Cam Peterson was the main crux of that incident. It wasn't all his fault. A big track blockage in front of him. As we take a look at that replay, it was Matag in front as well as Winicky. Winicky's protecting the inside. Peterson went for a little bit of contact and just sent the truck a little bit too far to the inside. Hit that guardrail, and everybody else behind. I mentioned turn 1 earlier being a blind corner. I was not wrong. It really is like the Circuit of the Americas turn number 1, just instead of paved in asphalt, we're paved in dirt.
Absolutely. It's a great comparison actually to the Circuit of the Americas, the opening corner there, and the way it just climbs. A couple of different fights to look at. Edmondson and Barry, contact between the teammates. Has Swain had his opportunity just to pull away, albeit slightly? On the bottom of your screen, we're watching the fight for 8th on back. James Burke alongside of Sean Winkler, Taylor Vandenbush and Cody Vanderveer behind them. All their fighting those cost them some precious track position.
That has cost them a lot of momentum. You can see the stack up of trucks behind them as well, most of which are missing some body work, but still making anything try and happen on the racetrack. As this is the entire group from about 7th, about 8th on back. Parisi and Swan are side by side for 6th up the hill ahead of this group. And those are a handful of battles on the racetrack. Vandenbush and Winkler in that battle. You can see them going side by side. But at the front, it's pretty calm, all things considered. Swain pulls away to the tune of 1.2 seconds through that corner. That'll get condensed down as they go down the back straightaway into turn 4. Edmondson with a lot of work to do. Connor Barry just trying to sit in P3, a familiar spot for Connor Barry to be on the podium. Only one non-podium finish so far this season for Barry.
Seems as though a little bit more issues for Anthony James, for Taylor Vandenbush as well, but all as the issues up front stay relatively clean for the time being. The camera angles show just how calm these top-level esports drivers tend to be, but Keaton Swain has pulled away. That's something that Josh Edmondson will have to focus on. And you know, you mentioned that stat, right? This could be another fourth consecutive second place finish for Edmondson. He won the opening moto at Bark River before the second moto saw him unfortunately tangled up on incidents on the restart, on the initial start, I should say. Championship defense for him has been relatively solid, all things considered. Second place here would not be the worst thing in the world still.
It's going to be those consistent points that I think Edmondson needs and that we're used to seeing from the one, but has been a hot minute since he has been to victory lane, unfortunately, for that number 1 Nitro Cross Next Level Racing Pro 2. It's going to be another second place unless he has something to do about it. Now, this same gap, albeit a little bit less, was what we saw in the first moto earlier on tonight for this open class between Edmondson, and that was when Connor Barry was in the lead. And Edmondson did move that gap in to about 0.2 seconds, and he did have an opportunity for the race win. Just couldn't make that move work with 1 lap to go. Does he do it again against Keaton Swain in the 21? Time will tell as we look back to the battle for 5th between Swan and Matag. They're still going strong on board with Matag through turn 4 as he's got the advantage to the inside line.
And nice little move there, has gained a position from where he started. The drop back from Cody Winicky, who's run a very, very solid race since that initial early jump. Oh, there's going to be a bit of a shove though from Robbie Swan. Don't know if Connor Parisi can take full advantage, but he swings his way on through, and the wily veteran is Parisi across of the dirt road licensed level, and you can see him alongside of Mittag fighting out through turn 2.
Big fight for P5 as this turns into a fight for P6. Here comes Parisi in that Nitro Cross number 11. This was one of those drivers, Arjuna, that has just been so consistent in anything dirt road related. And yes, it has been relatively recently that he has started his off-road prowess ever since the World Championship began back in 2022. But Parisi has gotten used to these pro trucks, and he is just as quick as you would expect from that number 11 up to P6 for Connor Parisi.
Back to your leaders for a moment as they get ready to come back to the line and end lap 8. There is the lead for Josh Edmondson. Don't want to say it's a handy lead, but with the margin between these drivers, 1.2 seconds, it's about as handy as you could hope for right now. And as they ride their way through the undulations towards the final corner again, remember, they're having to set up before they even get there. There's so much that these drivers are thinking through in terms of making full use of the traction that only is driven through the rear tires. It seems as though right now, lap by lap, Keaton Swain doing just enough to hold on. Look onto the bottom of your screen. You'll be able to peek an eye onto the details of the gaps. In fact, never mind, the graphics package decides to reset, but we're talking thousands between the drivers.
As it would exactly when we're trying to show something that we wanted to, Arjuna. I don't know what you were expecting, but with Keaton Swain at the front, that gap is now about 0.9 seconds, just a little bit under a second, and this is where it's been pretty much the entire night so far. 3 laps to go, and they come across the start-finish line this time by, but Swain ahead of Edmondson, ahead of Barry, ahead of Winicky, ahead of Swan. That's your top 5, with Parisi making up a bit of that gap to the 37, a Swan in front, as you get a great look at those gaps. Now, once again, it's been that same gap all race long between Swain and Edmondson. It's going to need to really swing for the fences if you want to see that number 1 go to victory lane. But there's that battle between Parisi and Swan as well, as we get a live look at the battle for 5th.
Yeah, always great when we can turn our attention to the multiple little fights that we have on screen. Look at the back of the shot as well. You can see further back, just out of the corner of the eye, Nathan Matoxin and Greg Johnson as well. 17 trucks. You find your battle pack through the course of the race. That is for sure. There is no hiding there. On track, you will very much be found out. And great thing about iRacing as well, both its official and league scene, there's competition for everyone. 1 lap to go though. That lap, Keaton Swain closed down on slightly by Josh Edmondson. Gap down to 1.1 seconds at the line as Connor Barry sits in 3rd, but no change for the lead. 1.5 laps to run for Keaton Swain to head to victory lane.
This will be victory number 1 on the season for Keaton Swain, who has not even set foot on the podium yet either since tonight. Of course, finished in third in race number 1 tonight. Looking to finish first here in race number 2, but a best finish of 4th before tonight. This is going to be a welcome result for the number 21.
Yeah, and championship picture by no means done and dusted for him, right? He's maybe a little bit further back than he would like. Yes, 9th, but such a strong competitor, such a strong contender. We know exactly what he can do. Problem is, there's just 3 rounds left to go after this. Firebird up in a week's time. What will he be able to do there? One more time out of that final out of turn 1, though. On a nice line that they run, that they execute. No battling at the front of the field, but Drapkin and Matoxin fighting further back.
They're trying to make anything work as well. Peterson has closed the gap on Winkler in the final lap. This is that battle for P12 between Drapkin, Matoxin. Drapkin at the front of that group now. Matoxin one back. Peterson and Winkler are tight together, but through the final corner, it's all Keaton Swain looking for the checkered flag.
It's win number 1 in the season, but could it be the start of the championship momentum? Keaton Swain victorious in Moto 2 at Wild West Motorsports Park, holding off the pressure and the advances of Edmondson and Barry in the pair of Nitro Circus sim racing machines. Both of them grab valuable points as well, but as a couple of drag race to the line behind, couple more climb over each other on their run down out of turn number 4. A chaotic evening, to say the very least, at Wild West Motorsports Park.
Chaotic is about the most passive way you could put that, Arjuna. What a night. Spec Class Championship was exciting. The Open Class showed exactly what we've come to expect from the Open Class, and that is it being tough competition from first all the way down to the end of the grid. Who is that trying to pull their best Ross Chastain
Anthony
up in
James.
turn number 1? Anthony James. I give it a solid 8.2. That's not bad.
Stuck the landing at least. We'll give him that. Keaton Swain sticks it up front though in his Sim Coaches by Factory Sim Sport number 21. Nitro Circus Sim Racing 1 and 2 in race 1. Second and third in race 2 with Edmondson in front of Barry, and it is now 4 consecutive second place finishes for Josh Edmondson. Cody Winicky in 4th, Robbie Swan in 5th, and Connor Parisi in 6th with Drake Mittag, James Burke, Kemet Peterson, and Sean Winkler, the rest of the top 10. Winkler may be a little bit frustrated given the pace that we've seen from him so far this season, with Van der Veer, Drapkin, Vandenbush, Johnson, Budson, Janes, and Matoxin. The rest of the finishing results, even though Nathan Matoxin indicated as not being as far behind the leader, I promise you he is scored down at the very tail end of the finishing results. Well, looking forward to some chats with the drivers. Let's see if we can go and catch up with them right now. And let's see if maybe we can start with winner and Moto number 2, Keaton Swain, who joins us now. Keaton, victory, but talk to us about the pressure built up from those behind. Seemed as though in these Moto races, 12 laps long, 2-wheel drive machines, of course, quite difficult to pass, especially if the leader was able to control the tempo up front.
Yeah, definitely makes it a lot easier when you're up front. You just gotta focus on hitting your marks, and you know, I knew it was gonna be hard to pass, so that was my goal, just to get out front and settle in. And you know, obviously it's pretty hard to pull away as well with all these guys. They're super fast. So to get a win finally, it feels like it's been forever, and we've had really good speed, just too many mistakes on my part, so it feels really good to get one here.
And you know, after qualifying outside of the top 3 initially, so you didn't get advantage on the invert, it was the move, I guess, in the start to get past Cam Peterson that set you up so nicely. How was it possible to make the move so efficiently and without getting too much damage on the truck? Because we did see today, very difficult in some ways, like we said, to make the pass happen.
Yeah, first 2 races I qualified first, and it was bad luck, so clearly I gotta not qualify first in order to get on the podium here, it looks like. But yeah, I knew if you're gonna make a move, you gotta make it on the start. And you know, in turn 1, everyone's just trying to tiptoe through there and keep their truck clean, and I was able to stay side by side with Cam, and then I'm not sure if he got you know, tangled up or whatever, but I was able to settle in for 3rd, and then you know, it set me up for the invert for the second one. So definitely take it, but yeah, you gotta make sure if you're making moves, you gotta make them early, and that's the only way to do it on these tight tracks.
Well, congratulations on the win in the second race of the evening, and we'll see you next week from Firebird Motorsports Park.
Sounds good, thanks.
Always great to catch up with Keaton Swain. Let's see now if we can catch up with Connor Barry, who is standing by with Joshua Lee in our broadcast booth.
Well, Connor, familiar territory for you here tonight. Third race win in the first race of the night here at Wild West Motorsports Park. How was that Pro 2 handling for you out there? Of course, this Open Class Championship being an open setup underneath all these race trucks.
Yeah, I mean, being truthful, I was a squid. I was a complete squid out there. I was not going well with my truck, so I'm glad that we were able to get a win and a third. So we tied on points, so we still have a pretty good gap. I'm glad that this is done, because I was bad out there. So I'm glad that we are on to the Firebird, which is going to be a track. It's a track where I feel good at. So let's hope that we can go there and sweep it.
Halfway through this season, you have officially won half of the motos that we have had so far this season, one at each track. Can you keep that going through Firebird, through the double dips into Bark River and Crandon, and walk away with another off-road championship here in Racecraft Off-Road?
I think so. The biggest one is just going to be Firebird, I think, because it is a track we haven't been there yet. But I'm pretty confident in our speed there. It's always been a track where I am fast at. So I think our biggest goal is going to be going there and try to get a win, and then we'll go back to Bark River, and then Crandon, where we have already got a win. So I'm confident that we can get some more, and hopefully we can win this.
And a big congratulations to you as well on your double race wins tonight, Connor. Go celebrate with the rest of the Nitro Circus Sim Racing guys. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Great to hear from now three-time race winner this season, Arjuna, and you've got now four-time second place finisher Josh Edmondson standing by with you.
Oh, you just had to bring that one up. Josh.
I had to.
Josh, 4 consecutive second places in a row. Good consistency after the second moto in the opening round. Slightly saw the championship run, slightly derailed for a moment, but how are you feeling now? Half the season in the books. I think it's been a pretty decent run in that Nitro Circus sim racing machine.
Yeah, can't complain with second. Obviously, it's a little frustrating again, finishing right there in second place, being able to see the leader. But, it's good points. And after that bad race in the first round, I need all the points I can get. So, yeah, qualifying P2 was good. Gained a little there back on Connor. And then, yeah, he got that first win. I thought I had a chance to get him a couple times, but, he's really good, doesn't make mistakes. So. That second race, though, we just got together. I over-rotated turn 2, and Keaton got a little gap, and that's all it takes. He's really fast, so you give him a little bit of breathing room, and he'll just run away with it like that. So congrats to him on the win.
Still 3 more rounds to go, though. How are you feeling about the rest of the season? Back over to Bark River and Crandon, but Firebird up next. What are you most looking forward to?
Yeah, I mean, probably, I always like racing at Crandon and Bark River. Those are my 2 favorites. Wild Horse is or Firebird, it's just kind of chaos sometimes. I've had some good races there, so hopefully I'll do some practice in the next week here and get comfortable and hopefully win one of those motos. I need to get another win this season.
Well, great run today in terms of the double seconds at least and grabbing valuable championship points. See you in a week's time for round 4 of the championship.
Yep, thanks, and shout out to you guys for doing the broadcast and all the sponsors, Nitro Circus Sim Racing, Next Level Racing, Pimax VR, and Apex Gaming PCs.
Always great to catch up with the drivers as we round up our post-race interviews with some of our competitors. And Wow, that one flew on by. Maybe not a surprise given that it's one of the shortest tracks on the agenda this season, but similar things can be said about where we go off next. Formerly known, of course, as the Wild Horse Pass Motorsports Park, now renamed as the Firebird Motorsports Park. Should be interesting to see how we go. Another bullring style track, Josh, for these drivers to navigate their way around.
Similar in length, only 4 corners as well, is that Firebird Motorsports Park, but this is going to be an interesting round of the championship as we go over halfway done with the Racecraft off-road season. Same time, same place, next Wednesday night right here on RaceSpotTV. And Arjuna, gotta give a big shout out to everybody in the Champ off-road world as well. This weekend in the real world, they're going up to Crandon, Wisconsin, in the real world at the Crandon International Raceway for one of the biggest races of the Champ off-road season. And if you thought our points battle was close here in the Racecraft off-road, it's a current tie for the Pro 4 off-road real world point standings in championship off-road. So you can check out their entire schedule airing on Fox Sports this year. And if you're near Crandon, Wisconsin, go up, support everybody at Champ Off-Road, and go see some jumpy trucks race in the real world.
Oh, that sounds great. Unfortunately, I have some commentary duties this weekend. Otherwise, I would totally be on board with that. There is a look at the schedule that we've still got lying ahead. Remember, the week off after Firebird, we'll see the drivers recharge their batteries before the championship hunt sees us make our way back to Bark River initially, and then to the big house, where our land rush start. We had 3 rows 10 wide in our Spec Championship. A little less crazy, yes, when it came to the Open Championship, but very, very fun, very much showcasing exactly what short course can all be about here in the virtual world. From our team behind the scenes here at RaceSpotTV, it's time to say goodbye. Can't wait, though, for you to join us to kick off the second half of the Racecraft Off-Road powered by Next Ever Racing season next week at the Firebird Motorsports Park. For Josh Lee, alongside myself, Arjuna Kangipati, we thank you for your company. We look forward to seeing you next week and to shouting a bit more and maybe losing our voices over some great racing in the world of jumpy truck short course racing.